and I have no interest in taking over on Thursday as low as this total is. It's truth. And it makes perfect sense that this is a dead under team. You have dead under teams, not many this year, but once in a while you have dead over teams. The Bears were when Fields was healthy with their bad defense and, at times high flying offense because they have a couple playmakers, but like the Saints are a dead under team. I'm all the way truth.
I'm going truth too. For everything Joe said, their offense just is not electrifying, and they have a really good defense. So it makes sense why the under would be hitting quite a bit for this Saints team.
I think it's a trend, but I'm still going to back the under for Thursday's game. The total is 40 at BetMGM, by the way. I think in large part, when we're looking at the Saints attack, okay, part of it is, quarterback uncertainty, or a bit of a revolving door, like efficiency is fine. It's just that they've sputtered some in the red zone. I think the Panthers game earlier in the year was probably the most notable of examples where the Saints just really weren't able to cash in. And I wonder how much of that is just a lack of a ground game, or, maybe Michael Thomas not being part of the fold like he was phenomenally, under Drew Brees, things like that. So there is that element. And then also, too, I think when we look at defenses, I know we've said this time and time again, but defensive performances are not as sticky from one game to the next, one season to the next, unless you're the New Orleans Saints. This defense has been good for a long time now under Dennis Allen, whether he was the DC or the head coach. So in that sense, you expect it to kind of fall back down against a great quarterback. And for the most part, it just doesn't happen. And so I think it's a quasi trend. I wouldn't look too much into it. But in a game like Thursday, I definitely like the under, especially given if Trevor Lawrence isn't 100% and that offense has sputtered a little bit.
Under 61% this year. Everybody in the space is talking about them. Now we've got, 5-6 games this week in the 30s. There's only 2 that are now. If 45 and up is like, whoa, that's a high total. Is this going to continue? There's a lot of different reasons why this has been happening, but are these totals, as low as they are, still bettable to the under?
100%. Yeah, I think there's a couple divisional matchups in the high 30s that I still like. Atlanta and Tampa Bay, I hopped on the under 40 as soon as it dropped. I want to say it's 38.5 now. I still like it. And then Washington, New York, those defenses are playing some better football now, particularly with the Giants. They haven't given some good efforts the last couple of weeks. And, we know the Giants offense isn't going to score. They haven't scored a touchdown since week 3 in the third quarter. So, a little bit of fear there with the Commanders on offense. But both of those matchups, like you said, in the 30s, I still think you can lay money on the under. I think this is going to continue. I really do. I wonder the next time we see a total in the 50s. We had Dallas, Los Angeles, didn't even come close. And it's just a simple trend of, sack rate is up a 15-year high, touchdown rate is down a 15-year low. Like, these defenses are just taking away explosives. And there are very few offenses in this league that can sustain 10-plus play drives, take the 7-yard chunk gains, and work their way down the field without taking a sack, without throwing an interception, and making that drive-crippling mistake. It's unfortunate, it's going to lead to some ugly football, but yeah, I think it is going to continue. I think scoring is going to be down pretty much the rest of the year. Maybe later on, some of the good offenses will emerge, but yeah, I don't see an end anytime soon.
Well, the Phillies absolutely dominated the Diamondbacks in game 2. So my question to you is simple. Is there value on the Phillies to sweep the NLCS at plus 210?
No, I don't think so. And I laid, I took plus 125, plus 120 on the Phillies to win in 6 games or fewer, minus 1.5 games before the series. But the one spot I had circled to bet Arizona was game 3. It's the one game that I do favor them in this series. After the Phillies dominated games 1 and 2 so thoroughly, I expected there to be an over adjustment in how the game was priced. And I expected to get plus money in Arizona, and that's exactly what we got. So project Arizona about 53%, minus 112 in game 3. It is the one game where I do think they have a starting pitching advantage with Brandon Pfaadt likely going against Ranger Suarez. And I made them closer to 55% over the first 5 innings. So would bet them up to about minus 110 over the first 5 innings, and about minus 105 over the full game. Did have to jump in Arizona. Not sure where the price is going to go, but I assume a lot of public money came in on Philadelphia initially. We'll see where the line eventually goes as limits open up. But it seems to me like this is probably going to be a pros versus Joes, public versus sharp game. And I'm unfortunately going to have money on Arizona, but This is the one spot where I expected to bet them pre-series, and I have already fired on them for Game 3. So hopefully I got the best of the number at plus 115, and it doesn't move up too much higher.
Mad Max returning to the mound after about a month off. Are you anticipating rust? I know, it's kind of hard to predict this kind of situation after a month off for Scherzer, but not a lot to love about Javier on the other side either. What do you like in tonight's matchup?
Yeah, so, it definitely comes down to pitcher usage and trust, and I would look to Javier overs and Scherzer unders. Javier over in terms of outs recorded. His last start against the Twins, they were up 5-0, I believe, in the 5th inning. But he had a bases loaded 1-out spot after walking consecutive batters. He had gotten up to 5 walks in the game. And Dusty Baker showed that he trusts Christian Javier to get at a big spot. This guy was great in the postseason last year. He was awful for the first 5 months of the regular season. But if you look in just his September numbers, isolate just his September numbers, he got back pretty close to the level where he was last year. So Christian Javier seemed to find it over the past 4 weeks of the season. Was really good in that start against the Twins, even though he walked a bunch of guys. He got his stuff back. And I think, him to record over 12.5 outs tonight, even though it's gotten juiced up, is a solid look just because 3 consecutive days here of games, you don't need to go too deep, or you don't want to go too deep into your bullpen tonight, on top of the fact that Houston used J.P. France, one of their 2 long relievers, in Game 2 behind Framber Valdez. So I think they need innings from Christian Javier tonight. I think Javier's been pitching better. That said, Javier over 1.5 walks as well, I think is a good look too. Since Evan Carter joined this Rangers team, they've chased less often at pitches outside of the zone as any other team. And Javier is basically a 2-pitch guy, going to throw fastballs high in the zone, going to try to get you to chase low and away with the slider, or low and inside to lefties with the slider. But lefties do handle him much better than righties, and there's a number of lefties in this Rangers lineup. So I do think he's going to get outs tonight and get innings, but I also think he's probably going to walk a few guys as well. So Javier over 1.5 walks, over 12.5 outs. And then looking at Scherzer, as I said, the unders, I don't think he's going more than 60 to 70 pitches tonight at most. And that's assuming he's effective and not actually getting blown up early. So Scherzer, I don't think is getting through this lineup more than twice. I don't think he's getting past the 4th inning. Under 12.5 outs, under 4.5 strikeouts, I think are both solid looks. He also reportedly was pitching in the low 90s in terms of his velocity in the bullpen session that he threw last week during the divisional series. Maybe he's gotten it a tick higher, but he averaged close to 94 miles an hour this season. So if he's sitting 91, 92, 92, 93 instead of 94, 95 where he typically is, that's just going to reduce his effectiveness as well. So going to lead to fewer strikeouts, going to lead to him getting pulled early. So like the under in the game tonight, based on where it opened, would not touch the total now. Need plus money on under 9, but Scherzer overs, Javier unders. That's my big targets for tonight. And then also Yordan to walk again, too. I think he might continue to get pitched around as well.